Hey, what is up, everybody? I am here to give you my Walking Dead review, Season 6, Episode 4. I got like 5 more episodes to do to catch up, and then I'll finally be all caught up with The Walking Dead, and I'll be able to watch it when it comes back on February 14th, 2016. So, let's talk about this. I'm actually kind of looking forward to see what they do with this episode after what they did last episode, which if you want to, check that out, you click right up here. I'm still pissed off that they killed off Glenn. Um, just because of the fact that I really liked Glenn. I mean, I understand because but it was a cool moment. But I'm still kind of pissed about it. But anyhow, let's dive right into this review. So this episode is called "Here's Not Here," and it came out on November 1st, 2015. And I'm gonna watch it, and as it goes to commercial, I will come back on here and give my thoughts on it, and then I'll combine in small videos, and then I'll combine them all into a big video, and then there you go, like I normally do. So now that I've done that, let's get right to the review. Okay, so the episode kicks off where it says now, like it's in the present, like it's showing the present time, and it shows Morgan like he's talking to somebody. Um, and he said that you said you wanted everything I had. You said that when we were talking about the fight, it was like the movies. He says, and here I am, and you can have everything I have. Um, and I think he's talking to that guy who he was talking to at the end of the season, who he beat the crap out of last and 2 episodes ago, and who we talked to by the fire last season. So I thought that was cool. And then it shows like back in the time. It goes back. It shows a flashback of Morgan, and he's just laying in the bed, and he has the walkie-talkie that Rick gave him, and then it says you said we weren't supposed to be here. You were supposed to do. You had the knife, and he's like, I'm talking to somebody, and we hear gunshots going off outside, and I'm assuming who he's probably talking to is his son, because this is probably after the events for when his son turned into a walker, and he's just losing it, and he sets the place on fire and then leaves, and then it cuts to the theme song. So I actually like the beginning so far, and I thought it was good. So it looks like this episode is going to be based off Morgan. It's going to show, because when it showed like previously what happened, it showed everything that Morgan's been a part of. So it looks like this episode is just going to solely be based on Morgan, about everything that he's done, but I'm not sure yet. So we're going to have to wait and see. And I forgot to mention too, on the wall, it said clear and here's not here, which is pretty much the name of the episode. So I thought that would be something important to mention. Okay, so the next thing that happens is Morgan's just somewhere in the woods. I'm not sure where. So pretty much he's left the town now. They doesn't really show that part, but he's left the town now, and he has one of those army helmets on his head that the army wears when they want to protect their foreheads from gunshots, and he's just killing zombies left and right, and he uses his gun to kill them with him. He just hits him right over the head with them, and he sets him on fire, and then more zombies probably approached by the fire because they can probably see it, so he kills them too. One of them actually walks through the fire, which kind of surprised me a little bit, and he ends up hitting that one as well. And he sets up some traps with using sticks. And pretty much what happens is anytime a zombie walks towards where Morgan is, he has like a circle full of sticks. They would go right into the sticks and get stabbed with them, but they wouldn't die or anything. They'd just be stuck there. And Morgan makes one of his sticks really sharp, and he continuously kills zombies and throws them in the fire itself. And he makes some drinks for himself, and he writes on a tree like the capital letter A, and he writes some other things like clear, pointless, pointless or something like that, and then here's not here, the name of the episode, and then he writes and then he's walking through the woods, and these 2 people are following him, so he hides behind the rock, and and when the 2 guys come up, he stabs one of the guys um, in the throat with the sharp pointed end of the stick that he made really sharp, and then he takes the kid who's probably about, I would say, like in his 19, 20 years old, um, and he chokes him, and he saying I'm sorry, begging for his life, and Megan says you don't know. He just continues to say that continuously, and he ends up choking the kid out and dies, and he probably got set on fire too because he's gonna turn into a zombie if that doesn't happen. And then Morgan leaves the place, and he ends up killing a couple of zombies too um, that got sent through the sticks, and he goes into like this open field full of like beautiful flowers, and he has a stick and a gun, and he says you have to do this. You know what they are. Pretty much saying I think you have to kill zombies because you know what they are, or you have to kill people because they know they're gonna become zombies. Because pretty much he's gone crazy too at this point. I think he's still crazy. Um, so then we hear a goat, and Morgan, and we it's by somebody's house. Morgan steps in like he's gonna shoot the thing or something, and then we hear this guy say, "I wouldn't do that if I were you. That's my goat. I'm trying to learn how to make cheese with it." And then Morgan tries to shoot this guy, so he scales around his house trying to find him, and the guy says, just put your gun down. I just want to talk." He continuously tells him that. And he's like, "This is your last warning." So Morgan's looking for him, and then the camera kind of like gazes there's somebody aiming for him, like it's in the guy's point of view, like he's gonna attack him, and then eventually Morgan turns around, and then the guy hits him in the back of the head with a stick, and then he says sorry, and then he hits him again and knocks Morgan out cold, and then that was it. I thought this was all fine. I'm actually liking that they're doing this episode just because when throughout the episodes of The Walking Dead, I always wondered what Morgan went through in this world, like what he was doing all this time. So I'm glad they're at least showing that. So I actually like that. So yeah, that's about it. Let's see what happens next. Let's see who this guy is and all that stuff. Okay, next Morgan wakes up and he's locked in a prison cell. And the guy comes in, asks him his name, and Morgan just repeatedly says, "Kill me." And then the guy says, "Well, you should get a new name because that name sounds dangerous. You should change it." But Morgan repeatedly says, "Kill me." Then he intensely says, "Kill me." And the guy has food with there too. He's got like tomatoes and other things like that. And the guy throws a book that's called The Art of Peace, I think it's called. Um, and we find out his name is Eastman. So we only know his name. And then he hears some commotion going on outside. And he uses a stick, like one of those karate type of sticks that is the same one that Morgan has now, which is kind of suspicious. Now that I think about it. But I'll get into that. He hits it, but he kills a zombie and hits it off the head with a stick. And what else happens? They go through this montage of the guy learning how to do like karate. I don't really know if it's karate, but it's like jiu-jitsu or something like that. And then Morgan is saying to himself, saying that he's been saying throughout the whole episode. He's just talking to himself. And eventually they start talking to each other, and we find out that Eastman he's from Atlanta, and his job was he was like some sort of psychiatrist, and his job was anybody he would do an experiment to see that if bad people got where he would talk to people with like PTSD, if bad people got thrown into jail, would they still do bad things when they got out of jail? So pretty much he tried to talk to anybody with any illness or anyone that's done any bad things. And then Morgan says, so he asked Morgan what he does now, and he says that he clears. He says that he clears anybody, walkers, people, anybody. And then that was really it there. I liked that scene. And then we find out Morgan is about to break out. He made some really sharp thin so that way he could cut through the boards. And then he tries to cut himself out, but the guy comes back. He was like in the woods, and he comes back before he can escape. So Morgan prevents. So Morgan acts like, makes it look like he hasn't even cut it at all. And Eastman um, says that you have PTSD, um, and Morgan doesn't really say anything. And he asks Morgan how many people, if he's killed anybody, and he says yes. And he's like, well, have they threatened you? And he says some of them have. And he asks if he's saved anybody, and he says yes, but it's been pointless. It hasn't meant anything. And then he asks if he has a wife and a kid, but he doesn't answer that question because obviously we know what happened to them if you've watched, watched it in the past. And then he talks about too how there's this door that people lead to, and you go out this door and you just feel pain. Pretty much saying that you continuously feel the pain from when your son got bit by a zombie. Um, and then he said, but you want to stop going to that door, but eventually you're gonna have to. One of those doors is gonna lead to helping a friend. And he says, I don't have. And then Morgan says, I don't have friends. And he says, well, what if you get to kill me? And Morgan says, I'm gonna kill you. And then Eastman says, well, I've dealt with many patients with PTSD. I've dealt with and I've dealt with people that have done bad things, and only one of them was really a bad person. Others just had damaged brains, or they just dramatized. And he says, I know you're not dramatized. So then he tells him that the door is open, because we found out that he never even locked the door. He threw the key in the river, and he never locked the door. And he gives Morgan two options. He can either just leave and continue clearing, or he could stay and he can help him a lot more. He can stay and crash on the couch. But he says he cannot kill me because he won't allow you. That's not one of the options. So then Morgan opens the door, and then he starts charging at the guy. Well, at Eastman. And then that was it. I actually have enjoyed this episode so far. I mean, it's not great, but I actually am enjoying it. I think it's actually a pretty good episode. I like the stuff that's going on with Eastman and Morgan. And I actually like Eastman as a character. He does look familiar, like I've seen him in like another TV show or movie before, but I know his face, but I don't know where I've seen him before. But I like Eastman's character. I actually like his character. I like how he's really serious and he's really nice person. So we're gonna probably find out more about him, and I can't wait to see what happens. But yeah, let's see what happens next. Okay, so Morgan and Eastman continue fighting, and they're beating the crap out of each other. Um, I guess they're wrestling around really, because Morgan's trying to kill him and Eastman's just trying to stop him really, and Eastman says you only have two choices. This wasn't one of them, and Morgan tries to grab a weapon, but Eastman attacks him, and Morgan throws him into the cage. He throws him into the wall. Well, he doesn't really throw him. He pushes him into the wall. And he had a picture hung up that his daughter drew for him. I mean, we didn't really know he had a daughter, but obviously this was to assume that it was his daughter. And he gets all torn up. And then Eastman chokes him. And Morgan goes like this, like holds his hands up saying, I'm good. And then he stops. And then he says, you have two choices, couch or door. Pick one. So then he goes right back in the cage and shuts the door. And before Eastman leaves, he opens the door and walks away. And then Eastman says, Aquino, Aquino. That's how I was able to kick your ass. It was Aquino. Or he doesn't really say kick, but we adjusted. And we're going to find out what that means in a second. And then he tells us about this story about how he was be working with so many patients. Sometimes he would come home at night, and he would be really upset. So he had 8 beers. So his daughter came down and gave him a something that she had won at a school carnival, and that he said the day after he learned about Akino, and so because it was supposed to be like good luck, so it is good luck. So Morgan asks your wife and your daughter, they dead, but he doesn't really answer, and he says, you know, we're gonna have to have more people come with me on this trip because you're a shit conversationalist. And Morgan says, trip, where are we going? And Eastman says, I have no idea. So then the next morning, Eastman is just talking some nonsense about how he's a vegetarian now and he never kills anybody, but he's never gotten off chocolate. Because I think he's not just a vegetarian, but like a vegan too. I'm assuming. Because like chocolate ain't meat, so. So then he says, so you have two choices. So then he asks Morgan if he wants to come gather some supplies for the trip. And then Morgan doesn't say anything. So then he tells Morgan to watch Tabitha for him. Which is his goat. I don't know if I've said that that's the goat. And then Morgan picks up that Out of Peace book, opens it up, and he reads this part about what Akino means. And Akino pretty much means that you don't kill anyone. Under any circumstance, even if the most evil person in the world, because religions say you shouldn't kill anybody, but under these circumstances, Akino means you don't kill anybody at all. I think I've heard of this concept before, but Akino, you don't kill anybody at all. You don't kill anybody, like nobody, no matter under any circumstance. So then, he hears Tabitha freaking out. So then Morgan runs out of the house, and he sees that a couple of zombies are about to attack her, and Morgan attacks him, and he takes one of them and stabs him through like the legs of like one of those little tiny stool tables, and then he attacks the other one, throws him into the fence and a tomato plant, and stabs that zombie through the eye, with a stick. So then he takes Tabitha away, and then he starts burying the zombies that he just killed. And Eastman's proud of him. He thanks him for saving Tabitha. But he says, "But you destroyed the tomato plant in the process." And then before they bury Morgan buries these guys. He takes out he takes their stuff out of his pocket, and then Eastman says, okay, so we got A and B. A, you have to fix the fence and tomato plant. And B, he gives him his spear back. And then he gives him his stick and says, we're making progress here. Because obviously he's trying to get him to feel better from his PTSD. It's not trying to cure him from it, because I don't think PTSD can be cured. But he's trying to make it better. And then that was it. I actually like this stuff here. I like the stuff when he went and saved Tabitha. I'm liking it because Morgan's starting to. You can feel that Morgan's starting to at least heal a little bit. And I like the fight with Eastman and Morgan. And I like this. This was a pretty good stuff here. Okay, so the next thing by the way, it's like midnight right now, so I'm probably just gonna either finish the show. So it's gonna be Wednesday when you see this, hopefully. But anyhow, the next thing that happens is Eastman is teaching Morgan how to do Kino. He talks about how you should be able to protect yourself, and he says that the way this thing works is you have to believe that all life is precious. So they go through some stuff, how he has the Kino, I'm going to call it the Kino stick, just because I don't know what else to call it. And he's showing him how to do stuff, and at least with this case, they didn't show him like sucking at it at first. They showed him, they at least didn't do that, because I thought that would kind of would have been stupid. Because normally when a guy learns how to do something new, they end up sucking, they'd show them some sucking at it, which maybe it would have been cool if that had happened, but I don't know. I thought it was kind of corny. They did like over like a river. Thought that was kind of corny. But then Morgan and Eastman are sitting by the table, and Morgan asks him why he has the prison cell. Like, what is it for? Um, and he's also they also go through this montage of him reading the Art of War book. Oh no, the Art of Peace. Sorry, the Art of Peace book. But anyhow, he says that he has the prison cell there because originally he had built it for as a living room before him and his wife had kids, and but then he was interviewing some people that have done some darkest things, like the darkest things that the darkest part of the body can do, and he met this one guy named Creighton Dallas Wilton. And he actually makes fun of his name, says that it sounds like it would be someone that owns a oil company, which totally does. So I actually was going to say that, but I'm glad that he said it. They referenced it in the show. And he said that he did something. I don't remember if they said what it was. And he's being charged for parole on it. But he said that this is one of the nicest people you would ever meet. He's a really likable person. He sends flowers all the time to the nursery homes and things like that. However, it's all a hoax. He's just scamming people, which I had a feeling he was going to say that. And he was the only one that saw right through him. So he was interviewing Creighton, and he was in the cafeteria, and he explained his stories really well. He explains, like how like the how he just explains every little thing that happens when stuff happen when like how like the floors were being cleaned that day and he could barely hear him. He had to ask him, so he does a good job of explaining himself in every story. He talks about every little thing that happens. But anyhow, he was asking him questions, and then he saw the moment when Creighton saw right through where he knew that Creighton saw right through him. So then Creighton decks him in the face, and he was going to beat the crap out of him. But then he knew about Keno. And Creighton was able to get out of jail, and he goes right to his house, and he killed Eastman's family, except for him. And he said the main reason, and then he went and surrendered himself. He killed his wife, his son, and his daughter. He said he did that to make Eastman's life a living hell. So the reason he built that prison, well, not really a prison, but the cell, was so that way he could, when Creighton came back, he would be able to lock him in there and watch him starve to death. And Morgan asked, well, did you do it? And then Eastman says, we have to believe that all life is precious. And then Morgan's like, well, you can't let a man live like that. You can't let that kind of man live. And he says, you have to believe that all life is precious. And that was it. I like the story, and I like the montage they did with Morgan learning how to do Keno. And I like this. This was a good scene, and I liked hearing the story because it was actually a really good story. And I thought it was good. Okay, so the next thing that happens is Eastman is looking for some supplies for his trip. And Morgan tells him he knows a place, and he takes him where he took him earlier in the episode where he had that trap set up with the circle where he was staying earlier. And they get some supplies, and he sees that Morgan wrote all this stuff. And Eastman asks what happened to his family, and he tells him that they died and all that stuff, and he tells him their names. And then he tells him to do the form where to do some more Keno, and he starts doing it, and then a zombie pops up, and it's the zombie that and Eastman tells Morgan to handle it, and he even told him not to do the formation there. And then Morgan sees that it's the guy that he choked out and killed earlier in the episode, so he just kind of stands there. So then Eastman attacks him, but then he gets scratched, and then he ends up killing the zombie. And then Morgan goes off on him and says, I told you not here. And then Eastman says, "We're not done yet. You have to go back to the house." And Morgan doesn't want to. So then he starts attacking Eastman. They start brawling. Eastman punches Morgan in the face. And then Morgan hits Eastman because he was scratched. Well, he was scratched. So I don't remember if he was scratched or bitten, but in his spot where he was been scratched. And then Eastman takes him down by the leg and he's about to kill him. And Morgan's begging him to kill him. And then Eastman puts the zombie that they just killed on the. He had him like on a wagon, and pulls him back. And Morgan said, "I told you not here." And then Eastman says, "Well, I told you, Morgan, here, not here," which is the name of the episode. So I like this stuff here. I thought it was great. Okay, so the next thing that happens is Morgan is sharpening his sticks, and then he goes in the woods and he kills a zombie. He stabs it right in the back of the head. And then he actually ended up saving these two people. One was like on crutches and the other one was a woman. Um, and Morgan looks at him like he's going to kill him. But the woman begs and she gives him chicken noodle soup and I think like a lighter so he could cook it. And he takes it. And then he goes back to Eastman's place. And we see that a zombie has eaten Tabitha. And I think he kills the zombie. And then Eastman says that she got out and she figured out the door was open just like you. And Morgan was like, "I didn't know the door was open." So then he has Eastman sit down because he's weak from the bite from the zombie. And then he looks and he sees Creighton Dallas William, the guy from the story. And Eastman tells him that what happened was he kidnapped him. And he went to the hospital and kidnapped him. And he knew the right people that were working there. And he wouldn't have gotten in trouble if he had done it anyway. And he had him starve to death. He put him in the cage, and it took 47 days for him to starve to death. And then he says he was in the same position that Morgan was in. And he said that, and then he goes on talking about how he didn't really feel at peace until he realized he never wanted to kill anyone or anything again. And then he was going to turn himself in, but that's when he found out the world ended. And then Morgan says, "The world hasn't ended yet." And then that was it. I thought this was a good scene here. I liked the scene of finding out what happened to Creighton and the scene where Morgan saved those people. Because that showed he's starting to kind of snap out of what he was in. So I like this scene. Alright, so the next thing that happens is Eastman tells him a story about how when he went to turn himself in, he went back because there was nobody else to turn himself into. So his daughter, that picture that he drew that he got broken earlier, his daughter had drawn that, and she drew it on the wall and he had it framed for her. So he went back through a land of zombies to get that, and he says it was the scariest and best thing he ever done. And then he says that it's his time to die. So he tells Morgan too that he can he can stay here. He'll have enough power to stay here for the rest of his life, or he can leave. And he says that life is about people. Because now you don't even have Tabitha anymore. And then he says that he has a gun, so he's gonna go shoot himself. So pretty much it happens. It doesn't show it, but we obviously knew it happened. And then Morgan leaves, but when he leaves, all the graves that were set up that Eastman had, Morgan had buried Eastman and did the grave and wrote his name like on like a tomb, well not a tombstone but like a stick, and then he leaves and Eastman too had given him that lucky prize that his daughter had won at that school carnival. And Morgan had made his decision, obviously, to leave. And then he sees the sign from Terminus, if you remember what that was. So he starts walking towards it. So I don't know what happened at that point. So we're going to have to wait and see. I don't know if it's going to show what happened, but we'll have to wait and see. Okay, so the episode ends with Morgan, and he was actually telling the whole story to this guy, the guy that, you know, that he had met before. And he says that it's a wonderful story, and he says that, but that's not how I live. And he shows him, and he says, don't ever be sorry. And he said he found this place because he thought they would be able to save him. Because he says, as you can tell, I've been sweating. Then he takes off his shirt. Well, he lifts up his shirt, and we see that he's been scratched. So then he says, well, you know what they say, Morgan, don't ever be sorry. And he says, I may not die, but I am going to kill everybody here, just like what happened to Eastman's kids. So then Morgan leaves and locks him up. And then you hear, I think, Rick screaming, open the gate. And then that was it. That was the end of the episode. I loved this scene. I thought it was great. It was a nice twist. So I thought it was great. So overall, I actually really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was really good. I liked watching how Morgan broke out of his PTSD, and it went through those stages, and him doing the Kino. I liked Eastman. I just can't even explain how good it is. And I like this episode here. I thought it was a really good episode. I liked what everything they did in this episode was pretty much good. And I thought it was really good, and I can't wait to see what happens in the next episode. But overall, I just really like the episode because it's more of a character. They revamp Morgan's character, and it gave me something I wanted. I actually wanted to see what Morgan was doing while everybody doing this whole show. So it did give me something I want. So I'm not going to complain about that. Because I always wondered, like, what's Morgan doing while all this is happening? Is he still alive? And then when we finally saw that he was alive, I was wondering, what was he doing all this time? So I did like that part of it as well. So I did like this episode here. And that's pretty much it, guys. I'm going to sign off now. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Because I post a lot of content like this show, and I review other TV shows and movies as well. Make sure to subscribe to my CM Brothers channel, because I talk a lot about anime stuff on that channel, and some other shows like that. And then make sure to check out all the other stuff in the description box down below. And that's pretty much it, guys. I'll talk to you later.